I know that if I were to mention Shel Silverstein, a lot of people would know immediately who I'm talking about and even possibly think of a fond memory they have of reading one of his pieces or just learning about him and hearing about him as an author or even a songwriter. And so, when we were presented this project to choose an author, a poet, or an illustrator, I immediately thought of Shel Silverstein because I have such fond memories of him. And this was a fun project to get to kind of dive in deeper to actually kind of figure out what Silverstein really was about and what he accomplished in his lifetime. So, a lot of people may know of Shel Silverstein as just a poet. That's what I knew him as. However, he had many other talents. He was born in 1930 and began drawing at a very young age, and that's what he kind of started as, was a cartoonist in his hometown of Chicago, Illinois. And he eventually then did become a playwright, a recording artist, a performer, a poet, and along with winning a Grammy, he also was an Oscar nominated songwriter. And I didn't know any of that, and so I thought that was really awesome. And every site that I visited about him had a picture of him with his guitar in his hand, and so I thought that was really cool because I didn't know that he had all these other talents. And that was just really awesome to hear about that. And he then later died at the age of 69 in 1999. And I just think it's, crazy how I'm thinking back to when I was in third grade, and that wasn't very, long ago. And people are still, reading and buying his books, and, he's been gone for how long? So that's just awesome. So, Silverstein wrote many great books and poems, and like I said, I have fond memories of reading his books filled with his fun illustrations in my third grade classroom. My teacher would read out of his books to us, and we read out of Falling Up, The Giving Tree, Where the Sidewalk Ends, and A Light in the Attic. And I remember this just being my favorite part of the day when we all got to sit down and just listen to our teacher read aloud one of his poems or a few of his poems out of one of his books. I just remember us laughing because they were just so hilarious, and reading it now, it's just funny to see the joy of kids' faces, or just listening to them laugh about what you read to them. And so obviously my teacher thought pretty highly of him because she read quite a bit of his stuff to us, and so I just am so excited that I get the opportunity to kind of incorporate him in this class. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit about his reviews, or what people thought of him. And so according to poets.org, his books that he also illustrated are characterized by a deft mixing of the sly and serious and just plain silly. His unique imagination and bold brand of humor is beloved by countless adults and children throughout the world. And like I said, adults and children enjoy his works. A lot of things can be said about Silverstein's books. One in particular thing stood out to me, though. It says, rather than reprimand the wayward listening, his books encourage bad, or perhaps just human behavior. These books glorified absurdity and made children laugh at the wrong times. I always enjoyed, like I said, seeing his illustrations as well as hearing what poem he had thought of next. Another quote that I found interesting was, his books have been commended for their appeal to both adults and children. Silverstein's poems and stories are accompanied by his simple yet energetic pen and ink illustrations. So I was excited to be able to go and pick a book out for myself in the library, and I chose Where the Sidewalk Ends because I just remember laughing and laughing with my friends in third grade. And I do remember one poem that we read when I was looking through here, and so I am going to read that, and I'm not going to show you, I hope you didn't see the illustration before I read it, because I want to show it afterwards why it's so funny. So this one's called The Loser. Mama said I'd lose my head if it wasn't fastened on. Today I guess it wasn't. because while playing with my cousin, it fell off and rolled away, and now it's gone. And I can't look for it because my eyes are in it, and I can't call to it because my mouth is on it. Couldn't hear me anyway because my ears are on it. I can't even think about it because my brain is in it. So I guess I'll sit down on this rock and rest for a minute. And then you see at the end of the poem that the rock he's sitting on is his head. And of course, I enjoyed reading that just now, but as a kid, that's just hilarious. And so these are just so fun, and I'm so happy that I got the opportunity to really dive more depth into who Shel Silverstein was. And I also would like to do a fun activity after reading a few or a lot of these poems. It's also a great time to introduce poetry in third grade and start learning the different types of poems. And so I would like to have students pick out 3 stories that have happened to them that they found comical or funny, that was with their friends, or something that they could put a little funny twist on after reading his poems, after reading Silverstein's poems, because I think that it could encourage them on illustrating their own work and setting their own poems out for people to read. And so I'll have them, like I said, think of 3 stories that they want to write poems about, and then I will have them create a booklet and where they can make their own illustrations, just like Silverstein does on each page of their poems, and it'll just be their own little Silverstein-like little booklet that they can have for themselves of their own poems and stories that they find comical. And so I think that would be really fun and a good way to also incorporate poetry and encourage their own writing styles and express themselves through drawing as well, because I think that that's always fun for kids to be able to do an art project but also incorporate writing and more educational activities into that. So I think that Shel Silverstein will be popular for a very long time, as he already has been, and I can't wait to use his books like this one in my classroom, and I hope that my future students look forward to just sitting down and letting me read a few poems to them a day, as much as I did back when I was in 3rd grade. So thank you for listening to my presentation about Shel Silverstein.